Taodark here from Advanced Maneuvers. This week video is a bit of a new one. We have two games this week, i.e. we had the title doubleheader. When we first played these games, they were rather short, which at first we contemplated not even posting them. But there's something to be learned about these games, so we decided to just put them together into one video. Hope you enjoy. Also, I'd like to take the time to give a shout out to Trevor the Great. Last week he was a guest host on a podcast, Dark Omen, one of the more enjoyable podcasts out there in my opinion. Anyways, on the podcast, the subject of YouTube battle reports and their value came up, and he gave a shout out to this channel. To that end, I would like to thank him for the kind words. They're very appreciative. If you want to, check out Trevor the Great. You can find him on YouTube on the address on the screen. He has many excellent Cygnar battle reports. Or if you want to hear about the podcast, you can find it episode 16 on the Dark Omen website.
Alright, we got here a standard 50-point E-Caine Cygnar list. We've, of course, it's mercenary heavy. Everything is pretty much designed to deliver Caine and help them assassinate an enemy warlock or warcaster. It does not do attrition style games very well. It can if it has to. And against heavy infantry lists, it kind of narrows down the choice for E-Caine and his merry band to just assassinate, since it can't really keep up with 3 or 4 units of heavy infantry, which is what we had this game.
I'd heard about the Calandra double Gator, double Warders list, and figured I'd give it a try. This is my first attempt at ever running the list, and trying to use that Star Cross for Gators and rerolls for focus for the Warders. Actually, on this game, I had Janissa Stonetide in the list, and actually didn't deploy her. She's not even in the actual model video. So remember to put all of your models on the table when you play.
Alright, on my deployment, I chose to set up the Boomhowlers center line, more or less, so they can go hey diddle diddle up the middle and jam with the Call of Defiance. Put Caine as battle group to their left flank. So I was kind of liking that force there to kind of help him hide if he needs to from some of maybe some enemy magic. And of course had my support pieces nearby to provide any needed shield guard or Squire support or Reinholdt extra shot.
For troll deployment, I'm kind of looking at the table and I'm not seeing anything that sticks out as a huge, oh my god, I need to go after this. So I kind of go for more centralized deployment, symmetrical deployment. I'm putting both of the Warders in the center and then the Gators on the outside. That way the Gators will be able to push forward into the game and bubble wrap around the Warders, since the Warders are going to be slower. I don't want to put the Warders in front of the Gators, then it'll slow the Gators down. I deploy a Lightning Troll on the left-hand side because the Tempest Blazers have the Electro Leap but are not immune to electricity themselves. And I deploy the Mauler on the right-hand side, my right-hand side, since that's where the Jacks are.
Alright, for my advanced deploy, I had unit of Rangers and Epic Iris. I put the Rangers on the left flank in the woods, of course, to kind of help give Caine that +2. And I ran Iris on the right flank as any necessary popping off upkeeps. Alright, Cygnar turn 1. Go ahead and pass off 1 focus to the defender, so you can keep up. Sentinel's got Arlen to keep him moving, so I'm not worried about that. Open up with Iris, move her up to kind of create a little danger zone. Rangers move up, to give that awesome mark target potentially to Caine. Stormsmith Stormcaller, because you never know when the odd strength 10 shot will matter. Gorman moves up. Piper will activate, move up. Dirge of Mist, the Boomhowlers. Boomhowlers will, of course, activate, Call of Defiance, and run up to hold the center, which is what they're really good at. Alright, next I'll move up my favorite Gobber. Mk2 somewhere out there. Junior will activate Taos Arcane Shield on the Caine, because you never know, and he will move up. Checking his control area there, make sure he can make it up there. He does. He charges him, doesn't need to shoot him. And this is a technique I like to do every now and again to get an advantageous spot, is to gate crash forward. It's only really useful if a particular list doesn't have a lot of long range shooting. I do tend to outpace my support staff sometimes with that maneuver, but it sometimes pays off, and a lot of players never really expect it. And of course, Tempest Blazer's up.
Trolls turn 1. So in last turn, Caine has kind of showed his hand. He's shifted high on the screen, so he's shifting towards his left-hand side, my right-hand side. He's basically going to run a gambit. Incursion, you can run a gambit, run your caster to an outer edge, and if you happen to pick the right edge, then you can start dominating and potentially getting up on scenario quickly. With him running that, I almost feel like I need to counter it. When I first originally deployed, I was looking at that hill being so close to the flag and thinking, I've got a hill and I've got a wall and a stick in Janissa, and I've got Starcross. So hill and wall, it basically puts Calandra at 20. And then if Janissa has Bullet Dodger on herself, then she can go up to 20 on behind the hill and the wall. So it feels like a prime scenario for me to be in. And I'm basically going to allow myself to counter Caine's gambit on that far flag. That being said, I'm advancing the Gators forward. With the Forest in the way, I'm not terribly concerned about it because they'll get the +2 for charge, and I can give themselves Pathfinder. The other Gators on the far side are going to take position on the hill, and with Dirge, they're going to be up to 15 with elevation under Starcrossed. And I'm basically just kind of putting myself into a situation where I'm maximizing the defense that I have by I've got the wall in front, I've got Janissa's wall, so all of my warders near the front line that could potentially be getting shot next turn are going to be defense 16. And under Starcross, defense 16 is a thing. So I advance all the warders up, and I make a hole for Calandra to sit in because, I mean, she'll be safe, right? I mean, she's behind a bunch of warders. She's under Starcross. They're going to have to get through the warders to get to her. I'll be safe, right? Question mark. So I advance her up. Obviously she puts up Starcross. I put Bullet Dodger on Janissa in hindsight. I probably should have put it on her, on Calandra. But just kind of confirming where Starcross is going to be. And basically, as soon as he advances past the flags, he's going to be in Starcross. And then I just rile up the beast to get them ready and in position behind the Gators so that they'll be able to countercharge whatever comes after them. And then it's just, I'm going through the motions, and we're going to see if Caine's gambit works. See which flag disappears, if it's going to be the far flag or the one closest, far flag by Caine, or the one closest to the screen by the Tempest Blazers. We roll it off, and Caine's gambit wins.
Alright, turn 2B. That's a lot of heavy infantry that's getting real close. So, I can draw a line of sight to Calandra if I could just knock off one basher. And I think I can do that. So, this turn is going to be go big or go home. I either assassinate, or I will end up eating a lot of heavy infantry. So, starting off to make sure I'm clear on what upkeeps are ongoing, and mapping out the path that Cain and company are going to have to kind of approach. I opt to, of course, charge with the Rangers to get that extra range, so I could get a marked target off on Calandra, although I didn't manage to get it due to line of sight issues. But it was a worthy gambit. Of course, they do very little actual damage to the Gatorman Posse they charged, but that wasn't the primary purpose of their action. Oh, look at that, boxcars. Alright, so now I try to move up Kailissa, get some of that line of sight out of the way in case I don't actually need to kill that Basher or somehow fail to. But the Basher is behind the wall. I am under Calandra's unfortunate upkeep that makes me roll 3 dice and I take off the highest, and I fail to actually hit the Basher. Activate Arlen, give a focus to the defender. I move up Reinholdt to load up Cain for a third initial shot. Defender's going to move up and try and get that warder out of the way. He is in the debuff zone of Calandra, so just going to have to roll hot. Well, defense troll kind of helps, I suppose. I'm trying to get Iris to blow up that upkeep, but she fails to actually hit, which is rather unfortunate. So now it falls to the wonderful Arcane Tempest Blazers to take out that Basher that is blocking line of sight to Calandra. Yep, not having a lot of good shots there. Tell you what, that spell of Calandra's is pretty good. Pretty good. Fast Cav move back, even though there won't be a third turn if this works out or otherwise. Still not entirely sure the assassination run will work, but it's looking like I've already committed, so I'm going to have to go through with it. So, Cain walks up, Calandra's in his control area, and we kind of know how this goes. Cain pops his feet and commences to roll a grand total of 8 shots, I believe, which will finally put her out. But in the meantime, watching this go, I finally removed that Basher out of the way. And then, even though Calandra had about 3 Fury on her, 3 transfers, she's fairly squishy. And with Cain's ridiculously high rat and his feet with overkill, she pretty much didn't stand a chance. And I suppose at the end of all this, even though it was rather quick, the moral of the story is, if one can help it, not to allow yourself to get in 19 inches of Cain. That's his ideal threat range, 7-inch move, 12-inch shoot. Keep her alive.
Hey everyone, I am PG Polar Bear Cub, and today I'm playing Convergence of Sirius. I want to play the Forge Master Syntherion tier list, the Great Machine. So with this I added 7 vectors into it, getting the Galvanizer for free, and with this I get the benefits of deploying my solos a little bit further, and then I get a little bit extra focus on my Colliery. Finally, I get the free Galvanizer.
Hey everybody, this is Gaston, and I'm here today with Amon. He holds a special place in my heart as he was my first Warcaster, and you never forget your first. There are really 3 different styles of how you can run him. Some people like to do light spam, some people like to do heavy armor spam such as Templars, and my personal favorite is to actually run a jamming unit, a gun line, you shoot them as they come in, and then you use synergy to beat them up on melee once they arrive.
Alright, so for my deployment, I put the Prime Axiom pretty close to that hill over there, and then kind of just with the rest of my army, I tried to just spread them out across the board, make sure they're as close to the front line as possible. I kind of did this because the daughters for Protector Menoth really scare me as being a former Cygnar player. I really don't like seeing them across the board. What I really should have done is I put the Colliery pretty close to the Cypher, and I kind of regret that. I really wish I would have put it near the Prime Axiom instead, because that's kind of where I like to throw a lot of my focus. Seeing those walls on the board really kind of stressed me out. It kind of ruins a lot of my dragging ability.
So I have a few rules of thumb when it comes to deployment with this army. I like to keep the Vanquishers central and the Reckoners out on the flank. Usually if there's some terrain, I'll arrange for Amon to be able to walk up, hide directly behind a wall. And then, in this case, usually I run 2 Choirs. I made a change in this list in order to add in Terran, in order to try out her ability with Shadowfire, since she's been errated. So, in this case, since the Jacks can outpace a Choir very quickly, I'm placing them as far forward as I can. Additionally, I like to put Gorman directly behind Amon, as he provides a nice little cloud for him to hide in.
Now finally for my advanced deployment, I kind of just put both of my solos on either side of the board so I could have the ability to, kind of throw any type of spells that I needed to.
Here I'm deploying the Daughters of the Flame, nice and forward, and they're going to get a good run turn 1, and then they're really in this list to go after the mechanics and to eliminate a lot of his magical shooting. That can be very dangerous with Drag and Prime Axiom, and I'd like for my Choir to be more effective.
Alright, so with my first turn of the game, I allocated 1 focus point out, and then I kind of started my activation. I ran the Prime Axiom all the way up, and then kind of just with the rest of my Jacks, I made sure I was able to induct all of my focus out all the way, running them all forward. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I love the induction ability. So I did have to make sure that the Colliery was, close enough to be able to get that induction. I ended up running him so I could just continue that induction out. The good thing was he did start with 2 focus because of the tier benefits. The final thing what I want to do is because of my tier benefits, all my spells cost 1 less, so I made sure to get out Synergy. I put Reconstruct on the Prime Axiom, and I put Hotshot on the Cypher. Afterwards, I made sure one of my my Optifix or my Directive solos was in the forest, so he gets a little bit of cover. And then I put the other one pretty close to the Prime Axiom. Finally, if you notice, I have 2 Optifix Directive units. One is actually touching almost every single Jack. I have 2 on the Prime Axiom because I figured he might be a bigger threat. Just kind of looking at that wall of Daughters at this point, I'm kind of hoping that next turn could really knock a good amount of them out.
So this turn we're going to see a lot of running, a lot of positioning. We're going to fling the Daughters straight up there to start jamming him and threatening those mechanics as quickly as possible. Amon's going to go ahead, he's going to throw up mobility, he's going to throw up synergy, and I'm going to have him hide behind some terrain. One of the things I think is very strong about this list, and potentially could be a bigger impact in the greater meta, is that it is the only way Protectorate has currently of giving their Jax Pathfinder. And with the increase of a lot of abilities that create rough terrain, such as in this case Cypher, or I believe a couple of the battle engines do that as well, I feel that that's only going to get stronger as more of these abilities are added in there to opposing armies. So here, again, we're being very careful to position things such that drag doesn't mess me up. The terrain is actually very favorable to me in this scenario. There's a lot of linear obstacles for me to get cut up on, and the nice thing about that is I have Pathfinder, so I can still charge over them. They don't impact me a lot. Again, I'm a little bit more conservative with how far I run the Jax this time around. It's been a little while since I played this list, and again, I'm trying to be very respectful of the amount of damage that his list can put out. Irregardless of my 4 heavies with synergy, he has even more Jax, and he has access to synergy as well. Again, traditionally I like to keep the Vanquishers central because they have the shorter range guns, and they also tend to force my opponents to counter-deploy their units against them. In this particular case he doesn't have any units, but it's still a good practice even going from list to list. Terran was on the far flank. She actually ran to toe a hill just to keep from getting sniped out by the monitor. I was quite worried about that. Since Amon was able to find some safety and security behind that wall, Gorman is going to go ahead and run off on his own. Finally, Reckoner does take into the zone, but he has Enliven on him. This way, if Prime Axiom does manage to hit him with drag, he can walk over to the other side of the barrier and prevent that.
Alright, so during my second turn, I was kind of just kicking myself in the butt a little bit because of where the corollary was set up. I knew I wasn't going to be able to get too much focus out to the Cypher, just because I really wasn't too sure what they were going to do. So what I ended up doing was I allocated 2 focus outs to the Prime Axiom, and then my thought was the corollary was going to give out 1 focus point to the monitor, which he's doing right now, and then ended up inducting another point over to the assimilator. And that was kind of just going to start my focus chain where the assimilator was eventually going to be able to give focus over to the Prime Axiom. So what I did now is I was kind of looking at Gorman, and I wanted the monitor to be able to take a shot, so I'm kind of just lining him up right now, and my thought was that if I could shoot him, I'll induct that focus point over to the Cypher, which will give him that focus, but after measuring it out, I was a couple inches short. So with that focus point not being able to spend, I ended up using the Cypher, activated him, and I threw out a Power 6 blast, but that actually ended up deviating completely out of the way, so it didn't hit anyone. So kind of with 2 Jacks not being able to do anything is a little frustrating. So what I ended up doing next was activated the assimilator. He stood still. He boosted a shot onto one of the daughters to take her out. Rolling 3 dice, she ended up dying. The second shot though did miss because the AoE only did get over 2. So next I was moving to activate the Prime Axiom. I really wanted to drag some targets in, but with just all the walls and everything, I just really didn't think that I was going to be able to. So instead what I did was I started with the ancillary spikes. I decided to shoot the model in the middle, and measuring it out, she was the only one I was going to be able to hit. So I had 3 shots. I need to get an 8 to kill her. So after 2 shots I was successfully able to, and then I spent a focus point to do another 3 shots. Which I chose the model that's closest to the objective, and then again after 2 more rolls she ended up dying. At that point they actually did fail their command check, so I was pretty excited about that, but I figured, why not, let me try to kill some more. So I tried to shoot out the ancillary spike, and actually with boosts, both of And actually, yeah, with boost, the first one ended up missing. And then kind of at that point, I just left that 1 focus point on because his second shot missed as well, and I didn't think about boosting that. So next, I kind of just moved the Optifex directives up. I moved all my jacks forward. Then I activated the diffuser to try to shoot. He got a boosted shot and he was able to kill. So finally I activated Syntherion, and what I want to do, since I did scare, I broke one of the units, the other one I was going to try to actually do a magnetic hold. So I activated Syntherion, I moved him just up to just right within that kill box. Rolling 3 dice on a boosted magnetic hold. I did successfully do it, so that was kind of nice for me, being able to take out both of those units. And then just the last thing, I just tried to take a shot at one of them, but I did end up missing. So at this, I kind of thought I'd be safe. I was a little frustrated I didn't put any other models in front of Syntherion, but I kind of thought I was going to be okay.
So having the one unit of Daughters fleeing was less than ideal for me. I had really intended them to go after all the mechanics around Primaxium to get and shut down that magical drag that could cause me problems later on in the game. And here I spend a lot of time thinking. I have 2 different courses of action that I'm really contemplating. The first is to go for the game on scenario. I feel like I can go ahead, I can destroy the objective in the far zone, and then have Amon actually run in there and dominate that, so that I'll get 3 points this turn. And then I'll shift my army in that direction as well. And that way, not only do I have the 3 points that turn, but I'll have at least 3, potentially 4 heavies against his 2 to 3 that can get in there. And that'll give me very good odds, especially with synergy up, of clearing out the zone again and winning on scenario the next turn. The other thing that I have going for me is I can potentially do a ranged assassination. And it is a very long distance for the poor Vanquishers. I feel like the Reckoners can get in there quite easily. But at this point, I also have my opponent egging me on. And so everything from this point forward is entirely his fault. It is entirely his making, because it is all his fault for egging me on. So we have Tyrion moving up. She's just attempting to shadow fire the monitor. She's out of range there, so instead she pops a shot at one of the mechanics. But he's base to base with the Cypher, and so she misses. I also kept all of Amon's focus this turn. We're going to go ahead and feat. So now the choir moving up, they're going to chant battle, and they're going to cover all of the warjacks. The Hierophant uses Harmonious Exaltation. Amon goes ahead, pops feet, throws up the whatever combination of mobility, synergy, and his 3rd upkeep spell that nobody ever uses, in order to allocate all of this focus. So basically cast 4 spells, 2 of them were upkeeps on himself, and he just cycled them in order to allocate all the focus. That basically lets me get mobility up. So here I have the Reckoner advance. He pops a shot into Syntherion, boosting to hit, boosting to damage. So the Daughters have magnetic hold on them, so they can't charge, but they can advance 5 inches and still be very annoying to his jacks. One of them does start swinging on the Optifex solo, but unfortunately it just misses her attacks. So the next Reckoner goes, he advances his 7 inches, is able to draw line of sight to Syntherion, and pops him in the face as well. Now I did get in a little bit of trouble here with log jamming myself. What I attempted to do with the Vanquisher was just advance it normally. Instead what I ended up doing is pulling out a proxy base, declaring where I wanted it to move, and then advancing as close as I possibly could to that location, which is what you saw there. Unfortunately he's about half an inch out, so he misses the attack, and ends up scattering onto my daughter and killing her. This puts me in a very bad position, because without the Vanquishers there to provide a little extra oomph, and get those extra shots on Syntherion, he's probably going to survive. But at this point I also feel like I've committed to it, so it's time to go all in. So the next Vanquisher advances 6 inches. Instead he decides to shoot the mechanic that's directly in front of Syntherion. He's able to hit, and he's actually able to catch Syntherion within the blast, set him on fire, and boost the damage roll. Fortunately, the blast damage roll is quite nice, and it drops Syntherion down a lot of health. Finally, a Vassal goes up, he ancillary attacks one of the Reckoners, hits, and does a little bit more damage. At this point, Syntherion is on fire and down to 1 health. All I have left to activate now is Gorman and another Vassal. The other Vassal moves up, he tries to put Enliven on one of the Vanquishers, but is unfortunately out of range.
Finally, with my last turn, I end up rolling for fire. Hopefully it was going to be able to go out, but it didn't. So with 1 health point left, he had to roll an 8 to kill, and he definitely did. So sadly, Syntherion burned in a fiery death.